Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Live with Littledata. I'm Edward, your host, and I'm joined today by Jesse from HiTide. Hi, Jesse.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Good, yeah. So I'm stateside this week in Chicago for the Shop Talk Fall event. So appropriate that we're not quite in the same city, but at least a little closer together than normally.
Not too far, not too far. I'm in New York myself.
Yeah. Now, we wanted to have you on here because HiTide is a super interesting product that I think fits very nicely with what Littledata is doing. So why don't you tell us a bit more about how that works?
Yeah, so our focus at HiTide is to help brands to convert their social followings to owned channels. What I mean by that specifically is we help retention and social teams to connect the dots between Instagram engagement and text and email lists through platforms like Klaviyo, PostScript, Attentive, etc. And using HiTide, social teams can connect the content that they've already had on the roadmap or perhaps have designed specifically for list growth and drive really fast and rapid growth using a really specific technique, which is direct messaging their engaged followers to ask them to join their lists.
Yeah. It actually might be super useful to sort of dig into the details of that for people. So I think you showed me an example earlier, which was, they're kind of already doing, I think obviously a lot of brands are using Instagram for, to raise engagement, particularly with new product drops. And so what you're able to do is people who, I think you said, can only work if they actually comment on the post. You can't message people sort of programmatically.
Exactly.
Without that, but for people who have commented, and obviously the classic thing, I mean, I see a lot of this on Instagram, on LinkedIn, but obviously it works on Insta as well as the whole, comment on the post to get this special offer.
Exactly. Yeah, the kind of breakdown of post types that we see across the hundreds of campaigns we're doing. Many of them are giveaway oriented, giveaway or sweeps.
Yeah.
Not all. It's actually just kind of like a slim majority. The other popular use cases are hyping up products that are dropping, hyping up restocks, simply talking about, promos or sales and giving people the opportunity instead of sending them over to like dig through the Instagram profile to find the link in bio and, leave the stickiest consumer surface in the world to find that offer. Instead, they can just engage like they usually do and they get a pull through from a conversation from the brand, which is really, really cool. And all that helps with distribution of the content as well.
And then I think you're right to hiding on that sort of stickiest platform in the world. I mean, I think Instagram still does a fairly bad job of basically directing traffic out of because it's not in its interest, right? As you say, it wants to keep engagement on the feed. And so while there could be opportunities to make these a link direct to your product page or whatever to see that, that's not really in their interest to make that happen.
Exactly. Yeah. Instagram does not like clickouts. There's nothing definitive. And obviously I used to work at Meta, so I know firsthand that the algorithm and everything under the hood is changing on literally a daily, hourly basis.
Yeah.
But one thing that's been consistent is that when you ask people to leave the surface, when you ask them to click out of the app, just doesn't do great. However, what Meta does love is conversations. Even, I don't know if they're still doing it, but it used to be that the, number of active conversations through direct messaging was like a hugely important engagement stat that was listed on public earnings and everything. And what they discovered is that these conversations are really good at driving business outcomes. And so a couple of years ago, they unlocked this messaging API, which is a fantastic tool that's very strictly built, and as long as you kind of follow the rules for using the API as both a developer and a brand, you can do some really cool things that Instagram, more than just tolerates, but actually rewards. So that's been kind of a game changer.
So just mechanics, how it works. So your brand has let's say it's sort of get access to this new product, comment in the drop the emoji in the comments, and then your app basically does the bit that's the email or SMS capture.
Yeah, exactly.
How does that work? Once you've got an engaged person on the post, how do we then move them from being that to actually identified by email or SMS?
Meta provides a tool called Private Reply, and the purpose of that tool is an API that plugs into platforms like ours. The purpose of the tool is that when someone comments, you can then send them a direct message. You can only send one, but you can send it immediately. Right. Meaning that if, I'm a brand, say I'm a sneaker brand, I'm like, hey, you guys loved this colorway of these, sneakers. in size 11. We're restocking next week. There's something great for hair stuff. Drop an emoji if you want to be notified when it's available. Me as the sneaker brand, I can now just message the person that left a comment. I can say, hey, thanks so much for your interest. What's your email or what's your phone number? Let's get you signed up for the drop. And along with that call to action, which is in, this very familiar conversational format, along with that call to action, we can provide all of the TCPA and regulatory language that needs to be present at the moment of opt-in, but then we can just, get people signed up to the list without them needing to leave the direct message.
Okay, so they literally just replied to that DM saying phone number or email, whatever. And
yeah, exactly.
And then if they've replied to you, do you get another reply? I mean, how does that work? Can you continue the conversation if they replied to that first message?
That's correct. So on comments, you have 7 days to send a private reply, where most of the time we're sending direct messages instantly. But then it's kind of a ping pong system. So if someone replies, you can then reply back. And so the most common experience, to give you an example, is, someone is signing up for a drop alert. As the brand, I'm direct messaging, hey, what's your phone number? Let's get you signed up. We collect the phone number, we pass it into the brand's Klaviyo account or Attentive account or PostScript account. We also tag the profile with the campaign. So, for example, you could segment all the users that have engaged with this particular drop for this particular product to send a campaign by email or SMS later. But then we're confirming their sign up. And then we can send them something else. So, they finish their sign up. Let's give them perhaps a coupon, or maybe we want to ask them to download the brand's mobile app. And so as long as the conversation is continuing, you can kind of keep it going.
Actions,
yeah.
Now, obviously, you mentioned Klaviyo there, and I think that's currently the main sort of integration point I'm excited about with Littledata. So for those of you who don't know, Littledata has a Klaviyo integration for Shopify stores, which basically boosts the number of visitors we can identify who are actually on your list already. So I think the brilliant thing about using the two tools together is that you're getting more of those anonymous sort of dark followers on dark makes sound English, but you know what I mean, like hidden in the sense you don't know who they are on Insta. You get some of them to opt into email, and then suddenly, because you've now got their email, and you know where they are on the storefront, we can actually help the brand trigger things like abandoned browse, abandoned cart flows, and win more people back to actually purchasing by having an intelligent and timely flow triggered on the back of that email caption.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And one of the cool things is, when I am talking about what HiTide does, it's often about the initial opt-in, but we have a non-trivial number of opt-ins that are actually returning, people that have churned off of the brand's list in the past. They're often actually customers. And so getting that, getting permission to start marketing to them again is a cool thing, and could lead to more effective triggers when they're going on to browse.
That's a really great point. So you say just because someone's unsubscribed from the list doesn't mean to say they don't care about your brand anymore. It just might mean that they just don't want to get emails from you, or
That's exactly right. Actually, it's one of the most interesting things we've seen in the last year of rolling this platform out. We have a good number of brands and a huge volume of collected opt-ins at this point, and so we can start to see some patterns. When we first started building, we're like, before we're launching our first brand, we actually pivoted out of a similar tool for creators that wasn't really working well. And we brought this over to the brand world, redesigned the platform. We're like, okay, one big gotcha here that we need to prove wrong is an assumption that your most engaged Instagram followers are also probably your existing customers that are already stoked about the brand.
Right.
And they're probably already on the list, because wouldn't you think that the people that are engaging the most with your social are the people that have already bought or are already opted in because they're all about it?
Okay.
And the answer is actually no. There's really good volumes of people that have are learning about the brand. They're on social, they're there, but they just haven't progressed further down the funnel. And so turning more of those people into targetable potential customers is awesome. And the amount of people that are actually existing customers that are either not opted into marketing, have never opted into marketing, or are churned off and can be revived is it was quite surprising.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. So let's talk about attribution, because I think one of the reasons that brands should invest more in sort of organic content, these channels, is a feeling that it's just impossible to measure the impact. Like you can grow a vanity metric like your followers, but as you say, there's not necessarily a huge correlation between that audience and the people actually buying from you. And so I think what would give most of the customers we work with more confidence is if they can really attribute more of those organic posts to purchasing. And
Yeah.
I guess the beauty is that the email address provides exactly that link.
That's right.
So I think you said in your platform you can actually see a little bit of that. Obviously, you're not, there's a large number of people you can't trace back the post. You may well have seen it and bought, but they're still anonymous.
Yeah.
But, for whether you do, where you are capturing the email, I think you can then sort of link that back to a sale on Shopify.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we have some directional reporting on revenue outcomes.
Yeah.
We're one step in the funnel, so we're cognizant of there's many other people lifting to get a person converted into a customer. And for us, because we're sending people into Klaviyo, usually we think about once they're on the list, then Klaviyo is doing some work to convert them.
Sure.
When they do convert, we are able to track back to individual posts and individual conversations to see when they actually join that list.
Yeah.
You have social teams that have been kind of trained up to grow the brand's Instagram following to the biggest size possible. And they're doing things like giveaways, drop, exclusive drops and stuff like that, where they're incentivizing people to come back to the social profile. But usually they haven't connected the dots between, or they don't think it's possible to connect the dots between an individual post and then people going on to make purchases. And so what our platform does is kind of tie the two together through Shopify reporting, which syncs up into list growth metrics.
And I think you use the phrase directionally correct. I think the important thing here is to understand which kind of posts relatively drive customers, because personally for me, obviously I'm not doing Instagram, I'm focused on LinkedIn, but the one question I really want to know after all the content I'm producing on LinkedIn is what kind of content is driving sales. So if I can just know, like, relatively speaking, this kind of post is getting more people to actually buy, that's as I said, I see that as a much better signal in order to
Total
my content, because the fact that we talk about this a lot with the content agency we talked to about. Adam's been doing a lot of research around with lots of content creators about the fact that you can go and create high kind of content that gets huge views, funny viral stuff, but it doesn't necessarily drive sales at all. Like,
right.
It could just get you an audience of people who are not that interested in your product, but kind of find your content cool.
Yes.
Flip side is you can have a super sort of in-depth, long-form video post that goes in depth, sort of about all the product features, that gets hardly any engagement, but actually drives a huge amount of actual purchasing.
Yeah, that's such an important point. Like, one of the parallels for social is actually quite interesting. Obviously the last few years, short form video and the shift from social graph to discovery, meaning like more reels, more TikToks, more reaching people for the first time with viral content. And that's really important for brand growth, breaking into new audiences. What we find, though, is the most successful piece of content for list growth and then ultimate conversion is just reaching people that have already kind of like signaled that they're interested in more than just content by following the brand. And so the common format types, a lot of times in the initial conversations for setup, we actually coach brands to move back to like post, carousel or static posts for some of their initial tests, because you're reaching mostly people that have already engaged or are already interested in the brand and just haven't converted into your list or gone on to purchase, as opposed to reels, where you're much more likely to reach a wider audience, especially if the content hits, but you're probably reaching people that you're seeing that are seeing you for the very first time.
Yeah.
And so, while you can pick up some, good activity there, I would rather convert people from your like rented channel of your followers into your owned channel of your Klaviyo list via reaching your existing
Yeah,
followers.
exactly that. And I think it obviously depends what kind of product you have, how well
Totally.
it's kind of going viral. I mean, I obviously Littledata is selling to a very niche group of, scaling brands on Shopify. So I kind of think like for me trying to do some viral Instagram content would be totally useless because the chance of it being picked up by someone who could actually buy a product is close.
Right.
Obviously, if you have a sort of, I don't know, CPG product or something that's relevant to lots of people, fine. But
Yeah.
but even then, as you say, you're basically, I think about that behavior of people. I mean, my wife's an Instagram user. I don't really use it, but that's just scrolling through the videos and like, you could, yeah, great. You're getting people to review it, but are they actually, engaged enough to come and even get to your site and inquire?
Yeah. What we want to avoid are, channel surfers basically, which is a good chunk of the activity. And instead we want to reach people that are like, engaged enough with the brand that they've already have some interest or intent. So like your question on what converts the best, in sheer tonnage, things like giveaways and sweepstakes are, great incentive for people to sign up. And so those are critical activities. In terms of like just the metric of conversion to purchase, things like restocks or drops do really, really well because you're
Yeah,
just showing people a product that they want,
yeah,
that they don't know is available because they're not looking at, they're not going over the website to check stock or whatever.
yeah.
And you're saying like, hey, do you want this when it comes back? And giving them another opportunity to raise their hand and then reaching them with a text or an email
Yeah.
at the right time.
And as you say, importantly, like they either that they may be engaged customers who either like just unsubscribe the list or just frankly don't read your emails.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
that's the important thing about being able to, as you say, reach the anonymous but powerful audience on Instagram is that they're people who they're much more engaged on Instagram than they are in their email inbox. And
That's right. That's right.
now, I should mention one other sort of synergy between our two products, which is obviously that, we mentioned that for some people who opt into the email via HiTide, we can link those, we can track purchases that match their email in Shopify. But Littledata also has a direct integration for Meta Conversions API. So for Instagram ads, what we can actually do is feed through to Meta and therefore Instagram the actual first-party customer data from Shopify, so the customer's email, phone, physical address, name, and if they probabilistically Meta can match that to a profile, then we can say, right, the attribution, we no longer need to rely on some click to do that because obviously, as we discussed, like there's very few people who are actually clicking out of the Instagram platform and being and therefore being tracked by some URL. Instead, we can track it based on the view of that content, based on the fact that the profile, the Instagram account matches their Shopify account. And we can do that for not just for the purchase event itself, but also for kind of adds to cart and checkout steps where we know who the customer is. So that's, there's another way of sort of being able to retarget people, which is to say, look, if they have engaged your post and we know that is a customer in Shopify, we can help you understand, build an audience there that you can target.
Yeah, that makes so much sense, and it's good to see these these innovations because before working on the Shopify space and on this product, I was at Meta for a bunch of years. Most of what I was working on was like programmatic ads, like mapping together different inventory sources and ad products and stuff. Yeah, exactly. Like all the stuff that for a short period of time was really easy, almost in a way, because all this infrastructure was built out for cookie retargeting, and you get that kind of famous example of looking at a shoe on Zappos and then seeing it again for the next 4 weeks. But in the last 3 years, all of that infrastructure, because of regulation, because of Apple's being aggressive, it's all getting dismantled. And so the rebuild in a way of platforms like yours to like connect the dots is mission critical.
Yeah, it is, and I think I guess I think there's so much confusion out in the market because obviously a lot of vendors start talking about cookieless and like the fact that cookies are dying. I mean, it's become a lot harder, but I guess our approach is that we can kind of use the best of first-party cookies that are left. Like there is still some stuff you can do there, and the lifetime of that. But you can also supplement that with this sort of profile-based matching, which, as I said, Meta calls the conversions API, that says like, look, if you know who the customer is, then tell us, because we may well be able to match it to
Right.
our identity, our device graph.
Is there like a critical mass of like on-site activity and first-party data that a brand needs to make this type of a match program successful?
So I split that into two parts of the question. So if we're talking about just being able to attribute the ads to the revenue, no, it's going to work for any level of purchasing. If you're trying to build like an actual retargeting list, then yeah, typically you need. So for example, with Facebook, if you want to do like a lookalike audience, I think you need about 1,000 profiles to share before you can meaningfully build a lookalike audience. But that's only, as I said, that's one benefit. But I think that the simpler benefit is just to be able to understand, which ads or even organic content is working, is linked. And I think, yeah, I mean, you're right, but also the other use case is that like the classic dynamic product ads one, where okay, so the things Shopify does make really easy. They've got like the inbuilt product feed, that all works well. The bit that is harder and that we can augment basically is the actual event data match, because you say if Facebook or Instagram doesn't know who that customer is, they can hardly retarget them with ads. So we need to be able to tell them not just that here's your feed with all the imagery, right? But it's about the triggers for the ads, to be able to say, look, this customer is actually the person that was looking at the product but didn't buy.
Right. That makes total sense.
So you're right. It's a good way of putting it. As you say, that stuff will work really well for a couple of years, and then the performance has just gone downhill. And that's not because the tactics don't work. It's just because the actual measurement and identifications become harder.
Yeah, it's all been like remixed almost, and everyone's trying to figure out what the right combination of tools are. Yeah. Fascinating.
Cool. So yeah, I think to sort of to wrap up, I think there's a good there's a great use case for merchants who are investing in Instagram content to use both tools, because as you say, like, you can do the critical bit of actually being able to convert more of those engagements into your list on Klaviyo. And I should mention as well, obviously you also work with Attentive and PostScript, which are very popular for SMS marketing, particularly in the US market, and we're planning to integrate with those in the next quarter. So I think very soon that'll be Klaviyo, Attentive and PostScript you can do this for, and Yotpo as well. Should mention them, and so whichever of those platforms you're on, once HiTide has helped you get more of your list into there, what Littledata can then do is to help you retarget that list effectively, not by just blast emails, not just by putting them on your kind of your mass marketing list, but be able to do very targeted flows about if that person's viewed a particular product category or added a particular product to cart but abandoned. All of those things we can actually help boost the audience, and typically we're getting a doubling of the revenue from those kind of flows.
Wow. Wow.
It's and it's all fully privacy compliant. So we're only using the sort of first party data that sits on Shopify to be able to identify those customers. So customer can opt out of being tracked. They can and when there's no sort of spam risk. In fact, if anything, we see a lower sort of opt out and spam complaints from the emails from our triggers, because they're relevant. I think most customer surveys show that people don't mind target marketing if it's relevant. I mean, if it's actually a product that I was wanting to buy, or it helps make the smarter marketing.
Yeah, one of the huge trends that I think of constantly, that it seems like every platform is kind of finally recognizing is important, is moving away from the batch and blast marketing, but rather like sending really personalized and more relevant messages. And Littledata seems like a great way to do that.
Yeah, exactly, and I think we hear that so much from the agency partners we have working with Klaviyo day in day out, that there's that's one of the simple ways that people can kind of optimize. And there are obviously a lot of brands that are using are very much a batch and blast, whatever the right phrase is.
Yeah,
and the problem is that over time people are just getting more and more attuned that. Not only does the deliverability go down because, with Gmail and stuff, it doesn't actually get to your inbox. It just goes into that the dreaded promotions tab. But also, like, people just opt out. They're not, interested.
Yeah.
Good. Well, thanks so much for coming on. I wish you the best of luck
Thank
growing
you.
this. It sounds like an awesome product, and it's great to hear you say you could use all that time at Meta to kind of, figure out how can we build a better way for brands to engage and get I guess get confidence that these sort of organic content's working for them.
That's what we're all about. And thanks for having me on. I'm a huge fan of Littledata and excited to see